Take your chat to the next level with carefully selected collections featuring some of the best video series from Chess24. Buy the courses to own them forever, save up to 60%, or go premium and access all series while having all other privileges of premium membership. Learn more at chess24.com/deals.
Want to raise your chess to a new level? Challenge Yourself is an exclusive, innovative experience designed for Chess24 Premium members. Train like a champ with a unique set of lessons prepared by the coaches of the challengers. Boris Girlfriend and co will help you improve your chess. Play versus a champ. Play a grandmaster each day in Banter Blitz. Take advantage of this incredible opportunity from June 10th. Go premium and challenge yourself.
Hello, everybody, and second day running, we are bantering here. I'll play some premiums. Hopefully today I'll make fewer misclicks regarding the challenges, and of course, you know, all kinds of questions. Welcome. I hope the sound and the picture are working fine, and if you can hear my fan, apologies for that. I'm not switching it off because I will actually turn into a puddle of grease on the floor if I do so. The fan stays on during banter, as they say. So yeah, let's start playing the games, and we can also talk about, as somebody correctly I think pointed out, there will be, you know, the one obvious topic of conversation today is what's going on in Zagreb, and Gary's result in particular, I guess. And I want to kind of, you know, lend my agreement to what the Kramnik student said in chat there. You know, people were, I kind of clicked on whenever you refresh the round on Chess24, it resets the choice between notation and chat back to chat, which is not my preferred setting, if I'm entirely honest with you guys. I generally want notation instead of chat in that spot. I'm also probably should have done something else here. I completely missed Knight of 3 existed, and I really dislike my position right now. I have a feeling I'm in a lot of trouble, but we'll persevere. Yeah, and I had a brief glimpse of what chat was saying about Gary, and people were suggesting that this was somehow going to be a blemish on his record, and it's like, how is this a blemish on his record? Let's be, you know, at least a little bit realistic here. It's an incredibly poor day of Blitz, which has absolutely nothing to do with a lifetime of achievement. So yeah, that was kind of saddening to see people express that opinion. I mean, I understand that, you know, half a point out of 9 is nothing to write home about, but it still felt like, you know, unnecessary hyperbole. As for, you know, the reasons why it's happening the way it's happening for him there, I think they're also quite clear. He hasn't really He hasn't really been playing tournament chess basically for... Normally he plays one tournament a year, but because of 2020 being what it was, he played even fewer tournaments last year. It went down from 1 to 0, basically. And this should be mate of some sort. I'm not even going to... Actually, I probably should try to calculate. If I take king b1, I have bishop c2 check, which is not mate, but it's probably very effective. Yeah, I think that's enough calculating already. Trying to figure out what's going on with the Twitch chat, because there appears to be nothing happening in that chat at all, and I don't think that's realistic. I'm pretty sure that something should be happening there. Let me try and restart it. As for the game, if white could somehow include the pieces which are kind of stuck on the king side, this would be an unclear position. But because the pieces are not going to be included, I should be breaking through and winning here. Yeah, and if you run forward with the king here, I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to be giving mate to it quite comfortably. Although I did miss queen a4, and now I feel a little bit silly. I'm still sure I'm winning, but the fact that I missed this move makes it trickier. But I'm pretty sure I should be winning regardless, because I have queen d1 check, and now I should be able to find something. Yeah, against this move I have at least rook c5 check, which looks quite cute, which should win. And I should be picking up the pawn on a3, not the pawn on f2, to make sure that there is no counterplay whatsoever. So yeah, nice game to start the banter, and we'll see how it progresses from here. Whoops. Yeah, and it's a good thing that, you know, these days, in order to stream these banters, I don't actually have to do any technical stuff on my end, which means that when I miss my scrolling and the picture gets distorted on my screen, it doesn't really get distorted on your screen, guys. That's definitely an improvement. c4, f5. I guess we'll have to play the proper Dutch here. I don't really see any way for me to avoid playing whichever Dutch my opponent chooses to play. I'm assuming it's going to be the Leningrad, but yeah, normally it's the Leningrad. At some point I tried incorporating this into my black repertoire, but I still don't really know very much. Yeah, I'm aware of that. That has been mentioned in chat. But as I said, I am not actually streaming. I am just playing, and everything, all the video importing is happening on the producer's side. So yeah, shouldn't really be addressed to me. I can't do anything about it. It's not my stream. It's a stream I play on. I kind of want to push for e4, so I'll play rook e1 here. Yeah, I had a feeling nobody will let me play e4 so easily. I don't know how my opponent is planning to stop me with the queen c2. I have a feeling it's probably transposing to some mainline theory, because I'm not sure if rook e1 is so useful for me compared to having the rook on f1. I'm a bit curious that I'm being allowed to play e4 so easily, but I guess, yeah, e4, e5 is to be expected. As I mentioned, I'm not the world's leading expert on the Dutch, so all of these things confuse me even more than they perhaps should be confusing me. I kind of want to be, you know, exciting and non-standard, but I suspect what this move actually is, instead of exciting and non-standard, is just bad. But yeah, we'll see. If my opponent decides to completely ignore it, I'm already quite happy, because I had the feeling f takes e4, f takes e4 was going to be quite strong there. And here, if I play g5 and c4, if I'm allowed to push c5, I'm in a lot of I'm doing quite well, but I have a feeling nobody in their right mind would allow me to push c5 in that position. So I'll take on e5 just to open some more diagonals for my stuff. Pretty sure I'm not doing particularly well here, but it's a playable position. It's not that bad either. I get to play bishop a3 here. I get to play rook a d1 next move, and and then we'll, depending on what my opponent decides to do. I'm assuming it's something like rook e8, queen f6 in reply, but I don't know for sure. And depending on that, we'll proceed. Or rook f7, and I guess queen f6 anyway. I think the queen kind of has to go to f6, because stopping knight g5 is definitely one of the priorities here. Surprised this has been allowed. I will, of course, immediately avail myself of this opportunity. I still don't see anything spectacularly good after rook f6. I have some tactics, but I don't think they work. So I'm mainly playing this as a kind of a psych attack, to see if maybe my opponent decides to put the rook on some kind of an unfortunate square. I still believe it has to be f6. Yeah, like d7, for instance, after which I think my situation improves. I can take on d7 and play queen b3, which should be quite annoying for my opponent, because with the queen on e8, I'm not actually threatening any kind of smothered mate, but I am threatening to get my knight to the d6 square via the f7 square, which is quite relevant. How can you say that, Kravnik student? What possible, life situation could result in a statement that dodgy was not missed? That seems exceedingly improbable. That doesn't quite work. It's a cute try, but it doesn't quite work. A challenge from somebody rated 3125. I guess I'll play that, and then I'll play some lower rated challenges to compensate for it. I wonder who that is. Let me actually look this up. Doesn't tell me very much from the profile. It says Serbia, but no name. Normally I would play d5 here and be quite happy about playing a symmetrical Grunfeld, but this being a banter, let's play something slightly more adventurous. Vlatko Ilinčić, that's a name I have not heard in quite some time. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to play against e4 on this move. I guess it's probably bishop g4, but I'm not 100% certain. I remember some theory starting with h3 and then e4, but that's different. Yeah, this is kind of confusing. And if it is Vlatko Ilinčić, I seem to kind of vaguely remember that he plays the King's Indian himself, and he probably knows these positions a lot better than I do. It appears to be the only chat going on right now, Dutch Defenders, so... read into that what you will. I was very, very worried about knight e2. This is a very strong move, I think, in this position. I was sort of exceedingly worried about it, because I have no idea how I'm supposed to react to it either. Like, I severely dislike my position now. I probably was supposed to play the immediate e5 instead of knight d7 so that I don't allow this. Yeah, this is going to be very, very challenging. I really don't know how I'm supposed to react to this. I can play b5, but it just does nothing. I can play e5, but then the center will get closed and my light square bishop will get picked up as well. And this is a combination of factors which I dislike immensely. But I think it's the best I have. It's a kind of a, you know, in my opinion, maybe the best of some really, really unfortunate options. Shots fired at YouTube chat. Yeah. Yeah, I freely admit YouTube is not my thing. And we seem to not be on Twitch. That's very interesting, because I did not feel like my opponent actually needed to finesse playing h3. But yeah, I would trust, you know, Zlatko's opinion on King's Indians in general over mine. I can try playing f5, f3, bishop h5 here. I'm not sure it loses. It's like extremely committal, but if it doesn't lose, maybe it gives me some chances in the future. What's your score against Vitugov and Caruana? All of these things are publicly available if you're interested. I don't really keep score. I would assume I'm in the minus against Fabian and a slight plus against Nikita. But you can just go to chess games and type in Svidler versus Caruana, and it will give you not just the score, but also the breakdown and time controls and everything. I, generally speaking, don't know my scores against people. It never really interested me. I will know some outliers when, you know, one side was significantly ahead, and this is why I would know. But normally speaking, I have no idea about my scores against people. Yeah, it definitely is a kind of a let me Google that for you type situation there. Here I wanted to play f4, but as I realize now, it will allow bishop b6, and then he will just play something like bishop f2, and I will look extremely silly. But I don't think I have a better choice, because g4 is now threatened, and something like queen d7 is just not a move that you can make in a King's Indian, I think. So yeah, this is not going to be enjoyable. Yeah, just don't take on f4. I'm pretty sure he's not planning to take on f4, yeah, being a good player. And we end up with a kind of a King's Indian where I probably would be much worse even with the bishop on g2, but the bishop isn't on g2, the bishop is on e6. So I am kind of busted. I think, you know, in as much as a King's Indian with equal material on the board can be actually lost for black, I think this comes pretty close. Unless I can find a way to attack that bishop on e6 instead of trading it, but I don't think I have one, because it, you know, if all else fails, it can go back to f5. Yeah, this is an interesting choice. I mean, I understand it, but for me personally, I would have tried making sure that the king side stays closed. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with sort of trying to win the game on the queen side as fast as possible. I'm not going to criticize this move. It's a perfectly legitimate choice. And in fact, you know, it might very easily just be crushing, because I don't actually have, you know, much in the way of counterplay on the king side. And cd6, knight c4 is just going to completely destroy me on the other side of the board. So it feels like I actually have to switch to defense, and I don't really have, you know, anything that I like defensively here. Yeah, this is a good move. This is definitely a good move. I think I probably need to start like lighting things on fire on the king side and sort of completely ignoring whether they are correct or, give me any kind of a shot at all objectively, and, things like that should just completely be ignored. Yeah, as I said, like F5 was a little bit too ambitious. I probably should have played something something more restrained. This is a very, very poor position now. Like really, really poor. I have some like semblance of counterplay if my opponent stops playing precisely, but the way this game has been going so far, I have no particular expectation of my opponent starting to make mistakes. Knight c4, I kind of want to sacrifice something. Allowing bishop b6 will be too painful for words. This is a strange move to my eyes, but maybe it's fine. I kind of want to go... We need to attack the g5 pawn to at least create some kind of counterplay, but I don't quite see how to do that. Knight g8, he can just go queen g4 here, I assume. Knight d5 and then queen g5 is like cute, but I would never expect that to work. Knight c6, but yeah, like none of those things work, and knight g8 feels a bit passive. I can take on f2 and play queen b6, but also no expectation of success. Let's just make some kind of a move. We are, and ostensibly we are preventing knight c4 from happening, and we're just sort of making a move of some kind, hinting at maybe playing b4 somewhere and weakening the e4 pawn. But yeah, my counterplay here is kind of imaginary. I would describe it as mainly imaginary. Yeah, this is quite good. I guess we're doing this now. I don't, like, it doesn't work, but I don't have anything better, and I'm trying to at least sort of introduce some mayhem into the game. But it's very, very, limited amounts of mayhem. This never, ever works. Queen g4, or even queen f3, maybe did I actually get a swindle in? Knight e2 still wins, I guess, right? Yeah, I don't know. I almost, but not quite, got a swindle in. Yep, nicely played. Nicely played by Zlatko. And I could never really recover properly from... specifically, I think playing f5. f5 was probably the final nail in the coffin there, with the bishop on h5 and the white bishop on e6. This is always going to be extremely, uphill struggle. Nicely played by pawn holder. Sort of serves me right to play the King's Indian instead of the Grunfeld, but symmetrical g3 Grunfelds are not that much fun even for me. So I think it's more interesting for me to challenge myself trying to play the structures I don't know nearly as well as I do the Grunfelds. But it will, of course, result in me getting into trouble. F3 here, I think I can play d5. I don't know if I have anything even more ambitious. I can definitely play d5, but that probably only just equalizes. Having said all that, equalizing is not bad. I'm not really against the idea of equalizing, as opposed to not equalizing. My opponent should be taking on d5 here and twice, and then taking on c6. And those types of positions are actually, I think actually what ends up happening here is we transpose into a line I have recently discussed even. And that line is not even much fun for black at all. Yeah, I don't think you should be playing c4 here, though. It's not a horrible move, but taking on c6 and going queen d2, I think, is much more sensible, because you're allowing this queen e5 move, which would not have been the case otherwise. You're also leaving yourself open to all kinds of bishop b4 check shenanigans. So I'm instantly much, much happier about my position. And just like that, the game is pretty much over, because, yeah, queen d2 just blunders a full queen here. Yeah, this, we had just enough time to discuss an opening finesse, and then the game suddenly was completely over. Sorry, Kamil. We'll see how it goes. Alechin. It's been a while since I looked at the Alechin properly. Because there are so few people who actually played at any kind of top level that I think it actually constitutes a pretty decent surprise opening for like a game or two for black, because I don't think very many opponents will remember what they're supposed to do against it. But then you will probably have to stop playing it again, because I don't believe it is entirely sound. But it definitely is playable. I played the Alechin myself. I won a very important game in one of the ACP Rapid World Cup, not World Cup, Cups, just they used to hold those events where people who gathered the most ACP points over the year would get invited to play in this knockout tournament at the end of the year. And I got to the finals one year by beating Sasha Grishuk in the semis, by beating him with black, by beating him with black on the Alechin, on the black side of the Alechin, and then holding quite comfortably with white. Yeah, you played really well, pawn holder. If you mean for me, I really don't think I had anything better. And for you, I mean, maybe you could have converted cleaner, but I don't think, it's very important. I think your conversion was perfectly fine. And at no point did I feel like I had enough counterplay after I allowed the bishop to e6. I think you just played very well that game. I kind of missed that option on the previous move, but now I will play bishop e7. I autopiloted rook fe1, but it's a free pawn on d6, and I don't really have any reason for not picking it up here. Yeah, I mean, if I actually have to apologize for no fan sounds, it's a good place to be, obviously. It's fairly loud on my end, but if somehow it gets filtered out by the producers, I'm extremely grateful to the producers then. How do we put this to bed? I guess we start by playing knight e5. I assume my opponent will play knight f6, and then I'll have to think about my next options. Obviously, my position is extremely nice here. Bishop b6 just doesn't look right to me. That's one reason why, but also from a purely positional point of view, allowing me to trade those pieces and land the rook on e7 wasn't going to be a great idea anyway. Yeah, now we are obviously more or less completely winning. Probably knight f4 was cleaner, but I've been thinking about this concept quite a bit recently because I've very often blamed autopilot on not winning completely won positions quickly enough, but I've been reading up on, well, not reading up exactly, but the topic of sort of conserving the mental energy comes up quite a bit when you watch people who stream proper long hours. And of course, a 90-minute banter doesn't really fall under that category, but I still feel that the concept definitely has merit. And when you get a completely winning position, you kind of teach yourself to switch off a little bit, because you will definitely play some challenging positions in the banter. I have just been absolutely soundly beaten in the previous game, or one game before that. And you want to be at your sharpest when you know that your decisions carry a much greater weight. So I think it's very easy to kind of go into that, energy efficient mode when your position is very, very good. And I have definitely, over the years, I have failed to win some of those positions. You're absolutely welcome, Check Attack. Haven't played c4 yet today, I think. We'll wait for a bit, but as usual, we're not going to be waiting for too long, because there's a long list of people waiting to get a game, and this is not the most exciting content out there. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Apologies, yeah, but we have to move on here. I see some people I actually played yesterday. That's an interesting username. I mainly clicked on it because I quite liked the username. I don't quite understand what it means, but it sounds kind of vaguely threatening and ominous and all of these things. F4 in this position isn't supposed to be very critical, but it's definitely a move that exists. Top level analytics right here. A move that just been made on the board is being described as a move that exists. I'm very proud of my casting skills right here. I definitely want to take on c3. In fact, I'm just going to stop myself right there and just take on c3. It's not really a question. If your opponent allows you to do this, you absolutely must do this, or you kind of feel grubby. I'm not sure about queen a5, though. I have a feeling maybe I was supposed to play knight c5 first to make sure I get the e4 pawn, because right now my opponent can play knight b3. Yeah, king d2 isn't great, specifically because of knight hang on a second. Knight c5, knight b3, I guess, is my opponent's point here. And it's a very valid point, actually. because if I take on e4 with both knights, he will play queen takes e4 in the end. And the fact that my queen on a5 is hanging is going to be extremely difficult to cope with. I think I'll make queen a4 rook b1, though. This is suddenly a very tricky position. I'll just play bishop b7. I mean, the fact that I forced my opponent to play king d2 should generally stand me in good stead. This makes a lot of sense, though. Yeah, now we play g4. I guess I can do it here. Knight c5, knight b3, queen a4. And if not knight b3, I'm instantly, more or less, absolutely winning. So the sequence of my opponent instantly playing g4 and then starting to think about knight c5 is a bit confusing, because knight c5 is the only move you should be calculating. Is it true that professional chess players do not eat anything before playing the tournament? It's true about myself, but it will not be true about most other people, actually. Yeah, and Kasparov famously, when he was in his prime, would eat a steak like half an hour before the game. For me, this is absolutely unthinkable. I have no idea what kind of, sequence of events would need to happen for me to have an actual full lunch half an hour before the game. That's not how my digestion works on game days at all. Like, this would be absolutely impossible for me. I would just not be able to play. So it's very individual, and most people do have lunch, but they have lunch kind of early-ish. Not sort of, although I have seen some people finish lunch and then go straight to the game, actually. It's extremely alien to me. I have no idea how that works. I think my opponent is supposed to take on c5, probably with the bishop, then try to defend the e4 pawn here and meet c4 with g5 or something like that. But I don't think it works exactly. I think my position is quite nice, and I'm quite proud of this move, queen a4. If not for queen a4, I think this would have been a quite unclear position. Yeah, people actually eating chocolates during the game is quite common. And you can sort of understand the idea behind that, because you get an instant sugar hit, which is supposed to be decent for the brain. Yeah, I don't think this is the way, though, because now after knight takes c4, there is no good reply, because the c2 pawn is hanging, and suddenly this wouldn't have been so bad for white if not for the fact that the queen is hanging and the c2 pawn is hanging with mate. I even eat chocolate when I'm not playing. You absolute mad lad. How dare you? My cricketing skills are, I'm a watcher of cricket. I'm an extremely skillful watcher of cricket, though. Whoa, b takes c3 here is definitely not the way to go. You're supposed to take with the bishop, because now I'm just a pawn up. I don't know if that was some kind of a misclick or what, but whoa, that's a lot of material I can take straight away. Apologies to Bent Larsen. This is not how I wanted to kind of play this game. It's an interesting line. It's become quite topical recently. Yeah, if white plays it properly, black it does not have, as much of a free run as I got. It's amazing. I made myself a bottle of absolutely iced water with ice cubes in it 40 minutes ago, and it's not even cold anymore. It's like warm room temperature by this point. I would really, really, really like for this heat wave to go away. Thanks very much, Dutch Defender, and see you around. Yeah, I think drinking water in general is a useful habit to get into. Yeah, it's not exactly a thermos, but it's a kind of a thermos-like thing, right? But mainly it's just swelteringly hot in, in the apartment. It's like unbelievably hot. Really, really annoying. Yeah, it's it's not a great period not to have AC in the flat. That much is quite clear. This is a setup I've not really seen before. I actually played this line with white quite a bit when I was a kid and had decent results, but this particular setup I don't believe I have encountered. I can play d6 here. I don't really need to panic. I was kind of looking at some kind of tactical attempts to solve my Sicilian, even though my final position is, well, shall we say, reasonably decent. And we'll restart from here. I think for the first time in my life, opened the YouTube chat. Pray for me. Let's find somebody to play. More Nidorfs, yeah. Yeah. Let's continue playing this. Actually, I'm kind of curious how people will continue reacting to B3. I personally did not react to it at all well. I didn't really like what I did against Magnus, and what Hoifan did against me also wasn't great, but this definitely makes sense. I could go immediately a4 before 95, I could go knight g3, I could go f3, there's a number of things I can do in this position, but yeah. I think it's probably knight g3 just to be just to be more flexible. Maybe, you know, I will have to develop the bishop to the c4 square later in the game. I'll try, you know, being as close to the mic as possible to mitigate the potential sound issues. Maybe I should just give up on the whole idea of castling queenside here, but it's kind of sad because if you play b3, I mean, why else would you play b3 in a Sicilian if you're not planning to castle queenside? Feels strange, so yeah, let's try to justify it somehow. This is not great. I'm not in love with my position here. But it's definitely quite an unclear setup because the pawn on b4, in particular if I get to play a4, a5 later, the pawn on b4 might become quite vulnerable. And the knight on g3 isn't that stupid either. It's kind of, you know, it can get cut off. If black gets to play g6 and f5, it will start looking very, very forlorn. But for now, bishop b7 can always be met with knight f5, for instance, which is quite useful to me. I can play queen g4 here. I can also just play a5, as I said. I can play knight f5. There's a number of quite interesting options here. Bishop d3, bishop c4. There's so many things you can can do. One thing you shouldn't do in positions like this is just think for 3 minutes. So let's just start playing moves and see where it takes us. F5 I will play F4. Of course we're not allowing the knight to land on B6, but now knight F6, rook C8, rook C5 is something I definitely need to be on the lookout for. The knight from G3 probably needs to be on E3 actually. So if he goes knight F6, yeah, I was planning to go knight F5, knight G3. I can probably do it even here. Yeah, I am playing the World Cup Gamer Zone. After bishop takes C1, I can take on D6, but I'm not sure it works out quite as well as I would like to. So I will just transfer the knight over to E3, where it supports my pawn on D5 quite well, and take it from there. And as I mentioned, like my entire play here is centered around the idea of picking up the pawn on B4. I think I can start with queen d2. I don't need to play knight e3 yet. I will wait until my knight is actually actively driven away from the f5 square, and then I'll play knight e3 as you see here, and we can go rook a4 in this position. I blundered knight e4 though, as I now realize, which is very, very annoying. Yeah, that's a bad miss by me, which I will now compound by sacrificing a queen completely incorrectly. But hey Ole, how you doing? I've been trying really, really hard not to use your gold monkey thing, and now I have used it. Like every stream I've done since that conversation, I've been trying not to say that, and it's been destroying me. So yeah, I completely missed knight d2 as well, which is, yeah, all of this is an issue. I think I will end up losing this game now, which is kind of unfortunate, but I do have some, some compensation here, because I think, yeah, like my a pawn actually survives, and my opponent needs to, I feel, try to give mate on the king side instead of trying to, yeah, like all of these waiting moves are basically wasted tempi. Tempi spent on things that, you definitely don't trade pieces. Like this is just a queen now. So my extremely speculative queen sacrifice paid off, but yeah, my opponent should have played a lot more aggressively in the center and on the king side, instead of trying to stop the pawns. The pawns kind of run, so you have to create threats against my king. Who are you going to play in my first match? Most likely Mats Andersen, but maybe he doesn't win. But he should be a reasonably large rating favorite in his first match. I'm starting from the second round. I do read that chat, Rick. I just answered the question from that chat. Gold monkey thing, is that me? It could be you, yeah. Depending on whether you want it to be you or not. This is some really, really old school theory, which obviously I don't think anybody remembers anymore. I played some games, in particular against Evgeny Bareev. I played a very, very memorable game in this line in the 1997 Russian Championship final. It was the one year when they held up a knockout, and I got to the final against my friend Evgeny, and we played an absolutely bizarre match where we played, I think, 10 games with 0 draws, or maybe 8 games with 0 draws.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely can get hotter, but uh, I don't know. I don't know if that counts as much. I mean, it depends on definitions. I'm pretty sure that it still counts as hot, and what you have in California right now is hell on earth. I think you need to like introduce a category which should be described as hell on earth, and go from there. Uh, so it very much depends on what you're comparing things to, right? Uh, yeah, of course I'm following the Zagreb Grand Chess Tour games. Who wouldn't? Like it's the most important event of today. Much as I would like to sell my own banter as the prime event of today, it definitely isn't. Of course, you should distract from chess. This is the like. Have you never seen any of my shows on Chess 24? They are never about chess. Please introduce as many absolutely pointless distractions as possible. I'll be extremely happy. We are kind of winning here. The question is like if there's any some kind of a direct mate or not, and I don't see it, but it's pretty close. Um, yeah, watching Gary struggle as much as he struggled today wasn't fun. I don't think it was fun for anyone, but uh, yeah, I don't want to like create an impression that my situation is somehow the more privileged one, but uh, yeah, it was really really painful as somebody who has sort of idolized him as a chess player my entire life. Watching today has been very very difficult. Um, because yeah, it's just not fun to see him both play poorly, and also he went on like unbelievable tilt after the start he's had. And even like in the end he continued fighting, and that position he ended up even losing against MVL in round 8. This is just such a kick in the teeth. He was playing that game so well, and not to even get a draw out of it is just such a horrible feeling. I mean, he definitely can do better than today, Kramnik student, but I don't think it will be difficult for him to completely ignore what happened today. uh, okay, so let's find some more games to play. Yeah, not always. He was completely winning against MVL. At one point, the evaluation was like -7. That's not almost. That is like completely and utterly crushing. And he gradually let go of most of his advantage. And then towards the very, very end, he could have made a clean draw and instead made one really ill-judged move and even lost. That was kind of heartbreaking. Yeah, Sasha Grishuk did this against him today. This is a line I don't actually know any theory for. It somehow became sort of part of the zeitgeist. People are playing this quite a lot somehow. And now I guess Queen E7 and then Castle Long and then G5, some kind of stuff like that. And because I see so many actual strong players playing this, I have to assume the computers don't actually hate it even. It's kind of shocking because it shows it shows how much compensation you can get, even in seemingly, very smooth, very. I don't think you're supposed to play rook g8. I'm pretty sure you're just supposed to play g5, because taking on g5 would open the g file for my opponent, and I think black in general in these types of positions is not unhappy at all if the g file gets opened at the price of a pawn. He's not really crushed. I mean, he's doing really well, but he's not running away with it. Tomorrow is going to be extremely interesting to watch, because I think there's like a half a point gap at the top right now, something like that. Definitely not much more than that, maybe a full point. So yeah, tomorrow is going to be a very, very exciting day to watch for anybody who cares about tournament chess. This is not easy at all to play. I'm getting progressively confused here. This is probably not a good move at all, but I was like, it's definitely a position where I can just sit and stare at the pieces for another 2 minutes, but it's a 3-minute blitz game, so I probably should not be doing that. I probably should be playing faster. I'm not unhappy about any of this, because now my bishop on c1 suddenly has squares. Also, I think queen c2 is quite strong tactically, and black might be in trouble. I think after knight d4, e4, bishop b6 was just a mistake, and black should have just played bishop d6 instead. But your more general point, I think, is absolutely correct, Gamer Zone, on that. Jan doing very well in Paris, only losing out to Wesley, who is having, the time of his life, both online and off, and once again doing extremely well in Zagreb, is going to do wonders for his confidence, I think. So yeah, with this I absolutely agree. I just don't think he has crushed the tournament yet. I think there is a very nice chasing pack not very far behind. Yeah, Karpov is definitely not 58. Kasparov might be 58, yeah. Actually, he's 58 because he was born in 1963, yeah. But I guess it was just a typo there. More neither, more better. G3, I'm kind of upset. I don't even know what I want to play against G3. I used to play G3 against basically every single Sicilian when I was a kid myself, so I have a decent idea how annoyingly unpleasant these types of positions can be. I'm not a fan of what I'm doing here. This is a bit of an improvement though, and I think a4 is actually reasonably inaccurate, because after knight c6 you kind of have, I think normally you play knight g2, but my opponent could have played, before I get to play knight c6 in this structure, you can play h3 so that you can meet knight c6 with bishop e3 without having to fear the knight g4 counterplay. And that is very... Actually, here I think I'm supposed to play queen b, queen c8, queen c4. I suddenly remembered I had a very nice game against Sergei Makarichev in one of the Russian championships of the mid-90s. I think the queen is much stronger on c4 than the rook. I don't know what the Dirty Harry Sicilian is, Kramnik student. Yeah, these judgments are always kind of very speculative, Rick. I don't know. I think he definitely will be. I think the match will just be extremely different to what we've seen in the previous two, because I think Jan will be a lot happier engaging in in the kinds of what they call open football in football, like much less concentrated on being mathematically correct and equalizing concretely with black. I could be completely wrong. I'm not involved in his preparation at all. I don't have any particular insight. But the kind of a player he is, I would assume he will just go for basically a brawl in every single game, if he can get it. That Harry Sicilian, yeah, probably isn't great, but also probably isn't all that bad. If the last few years taught us anything at all, it's that there are no positions in which h5 is actually unplayable. So I would assume it doesn't equalize, but I also assume it's reasonably playable if you want to indulge yourself. I have some extra pawns here, so as long as I don't go completely insane, I should be winning this position. It's very, very difficult for white to even generate a passer. You know, one way for me to lose this would be to after c6 to take, yeah, like I don't take with the rook here, obviously. Taking with the rook would have been a bit of a mistake, but it clearly isn't forced. So Peter is recommending e4 h5. Yeah, that's a literal quote. You're welcome. Why must I lose to his bogues? What shall we play against the Caro? I do not know. I think I'm supposed to take with the knight here and continue offering this endgame, and my opponent, yeah, like my opponent already said that he's not very interested in that endgame, so I think it's a decent read on my part not to even have to worry about it that much. E takes d5 is probably not the best move in the position there, but I did not want to play that symmetrical structure, which was probably going to appear on the board eventually if I left the pawn on e4. I wanted to play something hopefully slightly more fun, so I'm doing this. It's not wonderful for white, but it's playable. I wanted to play c4 here, but the more I look at the structure, the more I think c4 is actually kind of counterproductive. After dc4, dc4, black gets a very, very nice c5 square for the bishop, and the e-pawn might start running. So we'll play in a more contained fashion here for now. But as I said, yeah, this is kind of unimpressive, and I am definitely not a huge fan of my own play here. Yeah, I mean, which story? I remember those commentary days quite well, but yeah, Sasha has many stories. Which story in particular? Yeah, bishop c5 is very logical here, actually. Very, very logical. I'll continue with what I'm doing, but but what I'm doing doesn't really make very much sense. Yeah, I don't actually remember that one too well. I have my own stories about playing all kinds of sports ball against Magnus, but that Sasha story I don't actually recall off the top of my head. This is a mistake, though. It's a very big mistake, actually. You should be paying attention to forks like this. I don't think I was even better, and now suddenly I'm completely winning because I'm just up a full exchange for no reason. Yeah, this one actually kind of rings a bell, Seismic. But I don't remember the details. I kind of sort of remember the punchline, but not the details. Yeah, they both are. You know, they play very hard. Both of them. Let's take a slightly weaker challenge for a game. Let's see what this what this Grunfeld holds in store. There shouldn't be any difference. You should still play 92 here. Yeah, exactly. And then if my opponent castles here, I'm kind of stuck because I don't particularly want to play. Although, I mean, why not? Let's do it. Some of the positions in this line are just not very much fun, and also I won't be able to remember much, but we'll see. It's a kind of a curious line, and there's a lot of very exciting. Even the end games you get in this line are very, very interesting. This is supposedly an important finesse in this position because there's a specific reason why you start with this move and not queen d5. I used to play. I played the Cole opening with white almost exclusively, and with black I used to play the Queen's Gambit declined, not the Grunfeld. And then I switched to the Grunfeld, and I've been playing the Grunfeld pretty much ever since. Yeah, this I didn't really consider properly, but it might be a very decent idea. I wonder if I'm supposed to take on d4 here and go for that, because if I take on d6, my opponent will take on c5, and then he'll go rook d7, and my feeling is I will make a draw, but I will not make more than a draw in that position. But I probably also don't have any winning chances in the other line, so I don't even have any way of fixing it, as missed, because this is not me streaming. This is me on a Zoom call. Everything is turned up to max anyway, so compared to what's happening on my stream, I don't actually have any way to even influence the volume. I don't know if it's even a problem. I have a feeling something is not quite right with the mic settings, but I did check. Everything appears to be turned all the way up, and right now, as I said, it's not my stream. This is a bit of a freak out. You don't actually need or want to want to do that. because I think my opponent maybe was just didn't realize that the pawn on a3 doesn't get picked up because I have bishop f8. And now white is in a tremendous amount of trouble. Probably lost because of how strong my a passer is supposed to be. Although I've been looking for a bit and I don't actually see a way to end the game straight away. I mean, I have a very nice position, but I and seemingly we're back live. Yeah, I still don't know if I'm winning or not. I obviously, you know, it's impossible for black to be worse, but yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think I like king e3 though. I have a feeling now I might be winning. Hang on, bishop b4, there is knight c1. Knight c1 is a nasty trick here. Can I go rook b4? No. Bishop c5 check is also... I mean, we can check if my opponent actually sees knight c1 here. It's a kind of a cute little trick and it might give me something, but... yeah, I don't think I have any kind of particular way through after knight c1. I have bishop b7, but the knight can just go back. I'm now threatening bishop g5 and rook b1, so it's kind of a like I've shifted the bishop from yeah, this suddenly does lose. So I managed to find a trick which confused my opponent, but it was like a surprisingly tricky endgame to win. I thought I was completely winning after a4 ba4, but maybe I wasn't. Who do you think has a good chance of winning the World Cup? Most of the, I don't know, top 20 players have a reasonable chance, and nobody has an outstanding chance, I think. It's very difficult to pick one name there. And I say that sort of advisedly as somebody who won one and got to the final of another one. It's not random, but you can sort of create a pool of, I don't know, 15 to 20 people just by rating, basically. And if any of them has an exceptionally good tournament, they can win. And also some of the dark horses obviously have a chance. But if you look at the history of World Cups, you don't see very many non-household names actually get the finals or even the semifinals. So, you know, despite the supposed narrative of World Cups being kind of a, you know, a lottery, results, I think, prove quite conclusively that it's nothing of the kind. I think I was supposed to play before in this position. Bishop d7 is just wrong, so now I'm kind of forced to play really, really old school theory, which I don't particularly like. Yeah, this position exists, and strong players have played it over the years, but I don't like it, and there's definitely better ways of playing this for black. This is extremely risky. Has any of the top chess players tried Go? But I mean, Go certainly. Alexander Morozevich right now, I think, has a school of Go in Moscow, where he I think, I don't know if it's still active. I don't want to be, you know, lying about his life, but I think at least some years ago he had a partnership with the Tea House in Russia, in Moscow. I wasn't aware of that at all, Justin. Yeah, that's just me showing my complete ignorance on the topic. But at least at some point there was It looks like we're having problems again. Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. But people are saying that the sound is gone again, so I'm kind of worried. And now it's back. Yeah, excellent. I was just saying that normally you don't expect the sacrifice on b5 to work if there's no queen on c7, meaning that my d6 pawn survives, or at least gets traded for the e4 pawn. But I am really, really not sure I'm much better at all, or actually better at all, not just much better. I don't know what this position is. It's extremely tricky. I could very easily imagine myself being worse here. Yeah, queen e2 is a solid move, and yeah, I wanted to go knight f4 and then castle or something, but yeah, things will continue hanging. Maybe I'm supposed to play queen e7, but then bishop c3 is annoying. It's still better than giving up on e5, though, I think. Bishop c3, I have bishop c5, and then it feels like I finally stabilize after that. Maybe he can play a3 here. Bishop b6 I think I can just quite safely ignore and finally castle, and the moment I get to castle in a position like this, of course, you know, white's position completely collapses. I don't know what knight c7 is about. There is nobody on e8 anymore. Okay, I blundered queen takes before, but it doesn't really matter. I'm up a ton of material. Much material. Okay, probably one or two more, I think. We were offline for a bit, but we're kind of nearing the limit here. Still looking for some usernames I don't recognize from previous bunters. There's definitely some people I played yesterday. Yeah, I should just pick some name. Spending 15 seconds on picking an opponent is not the greatest procedure in the world. Greetings, Barbosa, and welcome everyone. Yeah, I've been trying to learn, learn the theory of this a little bit recently, but not e3. E3 is not the most critical line here, of course. Third move b4 is a lot more relevant. Here, I think I'm supposed to just take with the pawn. I could take with the knight, but there is no reason to not play in the most natural way possible here. I probably should be trying to make sure that the bishop on c1 doesn't get traded for anything, because very often in these types of structures it's the worst piece my opponent will have. So I probably was quite seriously incentivized to put the bishop not on e7 but on d6 and to play h7, h6 as fast as possible. I will try to correct this in the next few moves. Really, really need a stretch right now. This is a good move I kind of should have anticipated and didn't. I think stopping knight b5 is quite important, so I'll play a6. If knight c2 happens, I will consider again. But for now, we want to play h6, we want to play bishop f5, rook e8, those types of moves. I probably should not be allowing white to play before so easily, so I'll play a5. If the knight comes back to a3, which is actually quite logical here, we will once again... I don't really like b3 though. I think what my opponent doing is way, way, way too slow. On the other hand, maybe it's not. Maybe it's completely fine and I'm just, you know, not making much sense. In fact, I'm probably much worse right now. I should have paid more attention to this this plan when my opponent just began putting it into motion. Yeah, this is now definitely a problem for me. I'm kind of trying to pretend I have some swindles here, but I don't actually know if I do. b5 is probably not the biggest problem I had. I think it was possible to just take on d4 instead. This is still not easy to play though for me, but if this ends up forcing my opponent to play f2, f4, it's going to be a huge achievement for black because it weakens the white king side extremely significantly. Yeah, I should have, I kind of tuned out there. I assumed my position was very solid and I made a number of kind of a laissez-faire moves, which I am now being punished for. I badly want to take on h2, but unfortunately I don't think it works because of king g3. The idea is extremely attractive to me though, on like aesthetic grounds, but yeah, sadly I don't think I can because I just don't think it works, but it is so very regrettable. I wanted to go knight e3 here and then I realized that also doesn't work. What is this life? Why are none of my tactics working in this position? I would like to lodge a formal complaint. I'm trying to free up the e5 square for the knight, where it can definitely create some havoc by attacking both the pawn on d3 and the f3 square. White can play f4, locking out my knight from the e5 square. In fact, I think it probably is what white should do. Yeah, this doesn't look great. I think giving me knight e5 is just a mistake, because it's actually very annoying for white to meet this threat. And of course, if you just ignore the threat, you are not going to do very well. But I think I got completely outplayed on a stretch between, I don't know, move 15 and move 20. And then I used my reputation more than anything to trick my opponent. I think against most other people, my opponent would have been just greedily grabbing the pawns and I would have been in trouble. Okay, one last one, and for this one, let's play against Jup. Do you think that you have to be a great chess player? If you want to be a great chess player, you have to start from early childhood. I think historically the answer is yes, and also I think it's becoming a lot more pronounced right now. What I mean is there are some examples from, let's say, the 19th century or the early 20th century. There's definitely some examples of people. I actually looked at this at one point, but I don't remember anything as usual. I think I'm supposed to play bishop d7 somewhere, but where? Maybe here. Like Alekhine is supposed to have picked up chess at the age of like 16, and there are also some other examples of the classical players of the past being very late bloomers. But these days people are becoming grandmasters at the age of 12. And, things are obviously very, very different. So I don't want to say it's absolutely impossible to become a very strong player if you start late, because it sounds kind of discouraging and harsh. But the history of people achieving titles and things like that does indicate that it's a very, very big advantage to start early. This is the first move I kind of did not expect in this game. I really want to go for the pawn sacrifice with a6. There are some interesting replies my opponent can go for, but for instance, you can postpone taking on c6 and d5 here and play rook d1, which I think leads to very interesting positions. Yeah, exactly. This is a good reply. I think I can still take, but it gets a lot messier. I don't think c takes b5 works, but yeah, you can definitely do this. Although I have knight d4 here, but it doesn't work quite right. I would like to play bishop takes c6, but that also doesn't work. So I end up having to take with the pawn, and now I have to choose if I want to play, like, I probably want to play f6 and d5 here. In the same spirit of sort of trying for freedom. Maybe I should have started with b takes c4 though. I'm kind of regretting this a little bit, because I think queen c5 followed by c takes b5 is a lot more annoying than I gave it original credit for. I don't think I have any way back though. Yeah, you can definitely take twice here. I was kind of more expecting the inclusion of queen d5 check, but I think doing this without the inclusion of queen d5 check makes even more sense. Not, like, I think my position is still playable, but it's very, very risky, obviously, because I have to juggle my pieces here in order to not lose to some sort of queen d5 followed by g4. And I also am not playing quickly enough. This much, is quite obvious. This is not a great move, but it does the job of stopping g3, g4, and because we've stopped g3, g4, yeah, like this trade, this I'm extremely happy about actually. And in my opponent's spot, I would not have been making those moves at all. I think I am suddenly I think white needs to fight for equality here. The white king side is extremely unsafe, and yeah, this is going to be a very, very I can just take on d1 here. Yeah, suddenly it went kind of downhill for my opponent. And this is a sort of a teachable moment, honestly, because my opponent tried sort of quote-unquote playing safe in a position where well, I mean, I might still not win this position. Maybe I'm kind of talking too soon, but what is this move? I need to trade rooks, obviously, but the b1 square is not available for my rooks at all. This is not a good move. I should have played something else. Yeah, this is a very good plan, actually. H4, H5, and so on. So I need to figure out a way to trade something. What I'm doing right now is extremely, extremely suspect. I'm not sure it's great, but like I need to start making moves. Okay, this confuses me, because I was actively looking for a way. I was actively looking for a way to to trade all these pieces, and it was just given to me on a silver platter here. This is not great. And I think after takes king g2, I can actually simplify into a pawn ending, which I think is once again, it's an interesting teachable moment. All right, I think I'll call it quits on this game. This seems like a decent last game to finish on. It was, I think, reasonably well played by both sides, and I'm quite happy I was able to demonstrate some ideas in it. Thanks for watching. The Zagreb GCT ends tomorrow. Make sure you watch it, because I think it's going to be a very, very exciting conclusion to the title race. And also, yeah, I think all of us would very much like to see Gary do a lot better than he did today. It was not great to watch him struggle as much as he struggled today, and I would really, really like to see him, if not destroy the opposition, at least to have a normal day. And I have played some training games against him over the years, and I can definitely assure you that when he doesn't feel, the stress of playing in a big tournament, he is still extremely, extremely strong. Anyway, thanks for being here, and I'll see